Okay, Hare Krishna. Here we go. All right, here we go. But you don't know the song yet, do you? Can you bring a sheet for the new lady? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Mr. Paramahansa Buddhikacharya Stotra Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Buddhikacharya Stotra Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Okay, I think we're on text 20. We've done austerities. We did sacrifice. We did food. And now, 22, you think? Well, let's start at 20 because it makes more sense. Because we're going to do the mode of charity, mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 9th day of May, 2016, in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in chapter 17, entitled The Divisions of Faith, and we're going to read text 20 today, probably on page 653, mostly. Datavyam iti yaddanam diyate nupakarine Deshe kale cha patre cha taddanam satvikam smritam datavyam iti yaddanam diyate nupakarine deshe kale cha patre cha taddanam satvikam smitam datavyam iti yaddanam diyate nupakarine deshe kale cha patre cha taddanam satvikam smitam. Who wants to try? Go ahead. Datavyam iti yaddanam diyate nupakarine deshe kale cha patre cha taddanam satvikam smritam. Jesse, you can try. Datavyam iti yaddanam diyate nupakarine deshe kale cha patre cha taddanam satvikam smitam. Chapter 17, text 20. Datavyam, worth giving, iti, thus, yet that which dhanam, charity, diyate, is given, anupakarine, irrespective of return, deshe, in a proper place, kale, at proper time, cha, also, patre, to a suitable person, cha, and tat, that, dhanam, charity, satvikam, in the mode of goodness, smritam, is considered. Translation: charity given out of duty, without expectation of return, at the proper time and place, and to a worthy person, is considered to be in the mode of goodness. Purport: in the Vedic literature, charity given to a person engaged in spiritual activities is recommended. There is no recommendation for giving charity indiscriminately. Spiritual perfection is always a consideration. Therefore, charity is recommended to be given at a place of pilgrimage and at lunar or solar eclipses, or at the end of the month, or to a qualified Brahmin or a Vaishnava devotee, or in temples. Such charities should be given without any consideration of return. Charity to the poor is sometimes given out of compassion, but if a poor man is not worth giving charity to, then there is no spiritual advancement. In other words, indiscriminate charity is not recommended in the Vedic culture, in the Vedic literature. Om jnana timirandasya jnanandjana shalakaya chakshu unmidatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Shri Parampara. So there's three elements. Krishna will explain in the next chapter. Three practices that should never be given up. Dana, yajna, and tapa. Dana is charity, yajna is sacrifice, and tapa is austerity. Now, they're not mutually exclusive. If you perform the Sankirtan yajna, the sacrifice of Sankirtan, which is, what's the cost? Sankirtan is congregational chanting. So you have to show up, that's the first thing. And then you have to chant the holy name and maybe dance a little bit. It really doesn't take much energy or much sacrifice, but the benefits are enormous. We would say that sacrifice is beyond the mode of goodness. It's not even in the mode of goodness. When practiced properly, for the glory of the Lord, without any material motivation, then it's on the completely transcendental Shuddha Sattva platform, or pure goodness. So it's a sacrifice. But there's also some austerity involved. After all, in the old days, meaning the old days of ISKCON, in 1969, 68, 70, devotees would go out for 8 hours and come back, take lunch, and go out for another 5 hours of Harinam on the street. Not easy, so there's some tapasya involved there. So the yajna and the tapasya, or the austerity, merge. But all of them are purified. Now, but as we see, not all austerities or all charity or all sacrifices are in the modes of goodness. What makes them not in the mode of goodness is when there's some motivation, when there's some personal motivation. For instance, you have I guess when we get to the mode of ignorance, it'll be more clear. Charity in the mode of ignorance payoffs, bribes, right, to political figures or somebody in power, where you expect something in return, right? It's not really charity. It just looks like, it may look like charity. You go and give some speech to a bunch of bankers, and you get $250,000. That's a bribe, you know. It's just an out-and-out bribe. So everything that's spiritual can become contaminated with matter, just as ourselves. We're purely spiritual in our essence, right? That's the first lesson. We're pure spirit. But we have become infected and affected by the modes of nature. We're studying about the modes of nature. And that includes faith. That's the whole part of this, of the visions of faith. Because everything you do requires some faith. If someone is giving a charity for some return, then you have faith and it's going to produce that return. You see what I'm saying? If someone gives charity purely out of the sense of duty, which is what we've been is mentioned here in text 20, without expectation of return, well, there's an also idea there's going to be some benefit. It's not going to be a return, but it'll be purification. And especially the third chapter, we learned about yagya. Yagyartat kamanon yatra loko yam karma bandhana. These are all like revolutionary statements, if we really get deep in what it means. Krishna says there that any activity that's not performed for sacrifice to Vishnu, Prabhupada makes it clear that yagya can mean sacrifice in general, or it can mean Vishnu, the real enjoyer of all sacrifices. Then that activity simply binds one to this world. What we don't understand in our ignorance is that everything that's happening to us now is a result of previous activities, the law of karma. It's an incredibly complex skein or web of action, reaction, action, reaction, action, reaction. And the bottom line, the central fact of all that action, is that there's some fruit. There's fruit of action, probably called the fruit, with a self-centered aim, which is like, duh, it's like a given. Who acts without some self, idea? Even if you have a family and you're doing it for your kids, but that's still a little larger circle of the self. You identify their welfare with your own. At least that's basic civilization. Nowadays, even family life is falling apart, and the result is the kids are neglected. Even in fairly well-to-do families where both the parents have to work just to maintain, it's a disastrous situation for the kids. The children need that mother's nourishment, through years and years. Anyway, so that's the situation we have now. So yagyartat karmanon yatra. All activities are meant to be done as a sense of sacrifice for the Supreme. Then that work doesn't bind one. We have to recognize that our basic motivation in life should be to get out of this bondage. We're living a life of bondage. As spirit souls, we're more brilliant than the sun, and we live forever, and our nature is pure ananda or bliss, and full of knowledge. But we don't experience that now, because we've placed our attention, taken our attention and our love away from Krishna, and put it within matter or Maya. And this is all we know. People are completely bewildered. It's so clear. Srila Prabhupada would often talk about basic principles of understanding that there's a God behind everything. He would often use the argument from design. If you study theology as taught by, I think, St. Thomas Aquinas, he had all these arguments for the existence of God, part of the theological development in the Middle Ages. And he would often, refer to this one. You give the example of Newton. Newton was this great scientist, we know Newton. I don't know when exactly he lived, 1600s around there. And so he built a little model of the solar system. There's the sun and Venus and Mercury, whatever they could see, I don't know if they could see Pluto at that time, way out the edge of the universe, of the solar system. But anyway, it's like this working, crude model, with some gears and everything. So one of his friends walks in, and he says, "Oh, you built that?" He said, "No. It just appeared." I didn't build it. So come on, you must have built that. I just obviously did. So Newton says, so why do you think that with the little model, if there has to be some intelligence that built it, you wouldn't think that's a big original has some intelligence behind it that built it. His friend was an atheist. You know what I'm saying? In other words, the incredible complexity on a macro and a micro level, just for our bodies to function moment to moment, there's so many things that have to go on. If you study even a little bit of medicine, it's so complicated in there. So many, you know, just to regulate the temperature, 98.6, you know. So it's a tremendous number of systems that have to be, you know, just like if you build a big ship or a plant, there are many systems that work together in order for the thing to go on. So there's a tremendous intelligence. More than one person has to figure that out. No one would say, oh, you know, the big GM manufacturing plant of cars just grew up out of the land there, and it's insane. So, but still, because the desire, we read in the last chapter, you know, asatyam apatishtam te jagadahu anishwaram, that the demons, their frame of mind is that there's no ultimate truth, there's no foundation, there's no God in control. They declare it. It's not that they doubt, agnostic, but they declare it. They're sure, you know. Jagat means they declare that there's no Ishvara for Jagat, for the Lord of the universe. And how did things come about? Oh, aparasparasambhutam, just the chance mixing of molecules over a long, long, long period of time created, you know, very simple living entities who eventually crawled out. You know, isn't that the story they tell? It's all just, there's nobody up there controlling it. Then what's the other force? Only by the chance actions of the material energy, one after another. So the point is that our original state is that we're focused on pleasing the Lord, you know, the Supreme Lord, Krishna, with the absolute truth, the Supreme Atma. We're also Atma. He's Paramatma, Supreme Atma, we're Anu-Atma. But we're both Atma, meaning soul, pure spirit. We're part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit. So just like the hand prospers or enjoys or is nourished and flourishes when it takes the food stuff and puts it in the mouth, maybe using a fork or whatever, right? And then the whole body is nourished, and the hand and all the other limbs are nourished. So we're the hand. We truly benefit and become joyful and peaceful and full of ananda when we focus on Krishna. I'm sitting here reading Krishna's words. I'm not asking you for any payment, you know. I'm not asking. There's no motive I have. Simply the desire to, you know, glorify Krishna. And it says at the end of the book, in the next chapter, we'll see in text 68, that if someone teaches this principle of Bhagavad Gita to devotees, then he goes back to guidance. So you can say, well, that's my ultimate motive. You know, maybe it'll work for me. In my case, it's probably an exception. I have to come back. But I'm not thinking of that. You know, it's just Prabhupada said he went into classes, and it becomes a joyful thing. Just like we're chanting Hare Krishna in the beads or in the kirtan. So when you first start, it says, okay, well, this is the prescription, just like in Hatha Yoga. You know, no one spontaneously wants to stretch and bend. It's a trip. But you feel good afterward. So, okay, I'll feel good after I stretch. But after a while, you're really into it, right? It comes naturally. You're habituated to do it. It's like a spontaneous thing. So how much more that's true of Bhakti Yoga. The very activity that was once a tapasya and a yajna, you know, a sacrifice and an austerity, becomes spontaneously joyful because it's the natural state of the soul. There's a nice verse in this book called the Upadesha Amrita. I highly recommend it. Upadesha Amrita means the nectar of instruction, essential instruction. And it's 11 verses, only 11 verses, written by Rupa Goswami. Now, Rupa Goswami is our great acharya. He's like the most important of the 6 Goswamis, who were all great acharyas in our line, students of Lord Chaitanya. So Rupa Goswami wrote this essential book called the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the ocean of Bhakti Rasa, of the nectar of mellows of devotion, which Srila Prabhupada gave us as the nectar of devotion. Very important book translated. But he also translated this other more concise book that gives all these essential instructions for sadhakas, those who want to go on this path, you know. So in there he gives these instructions. He says, text 7, I think. Syat Krishna nama chaditari sitapya vidya pitto patapta sarasena rochikanu kintvadarat anudinam Kalusai Vajishta Svadvi Kraman Bhatapatankanamula Mantri. Very interesting verse, very important verse. So he's saying that Krishna, Nama, the name of Krishna, the activities of Krishna, etc., which name, form, qualities, and pastimes. These are the four things that we hear about. The name, beginning with the name, and then qualities of the form, qualities. So Syat Krishna Nama Charitari, Sita means very tasty. By nature, it's very pleasing to the heart. But because our tongue is covered by the bile of ignorance, meaning that we're in Maya, they don't taste so sweet. In other words, we have to push ourselves to chant and to listen and to do the sadhana bhakti according to rules and regulations until we develop the taste. And so that's the next half of it. Isn't it wonderful? Anudinam, day after day. Kalusai Vajishta, that by practicing chanting, even if we're not spontaneously attracted, we do it out of duty to the Shastra, the Guru, whatever. That the natural taste reawakens in the tongue, and it becomes as sweet as anything. And then there's no more austerity. Where's the austerity when you spontaneously want to do it? When you fasted all day, is it an austerity to sit down to the great prasadam feast? That's not one of our austerities. But you've earned it. In other words, it's sacred food, and you're tasting it and enjoying it is part of Krishna consciousness. It's not a fall down. It's a very purifying. So the point I'm making is that these dana, yajna, tapa, which we're reading about, everything can become contaminated. So can charity. So can yajna, sacrifice or austerity performed for achieving some material goal. Just like you read, this is the spring season has come about. It's getting warmer. So now they have all these marathons. The Boston Marathon, I think they just had recently. They've had it for, 50 years. So now it's famous there was a terrorist attack. But besides that, those who run there, it's always the Kenyans. They always win. Right? Oh, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. She's from Kenya. But I don't know, from running in the Sahel or something, right, for so long, they're naturally better runners, and those who really strive and work, they usually can run faster for long distances. But, I want to win the Boston Marathon. You go out, you run 26 miles, I can hardly run a half a mile anymore. But, it's such a thing, and what's the point? The injuries come, you're pushing the body so hard for name, fame, some prize money, and good health is in there somewhere. But it's all material. The motive is not at all to please the Lord or the devotees or anything like that. It's tapasya, sacrifice, or austerity in the mode of ignorance. But austerity that's under the instructions of the Shastra and the Guru, and it's for purification of the heart. That's the austerities that we have to embrace. The austerity of coming here. You're here. It's an austerity. You're not out there, enjoying something else. You could be a million other places. This is an austerity. Maybe it's not a big austerity, but it's a good one. And there's so many others. The don'ts. No drugs. No tea or coffee. That can be a big thing when you're accustomed to that. Some devotees I can't come because I'm smoking cigarettes. Used to be in the old days, more percentage of people would smoke cigarettes. Or just to give it up. So, but the motive, first of all, is prescribed by spiritual authorities and the Shastra, and the purpose is purification. Now, what's the purpose of purification? Rishabdev tells us for austerity. He says, Tapo divyam putrakayena sattvam shuddhe yasma brahma saukyam tvanantam. By engaging in, he says, tapo divyam. Divya means divine. Yeah. What happens? The existence becomes purified. That means all the senses, the mind, the intelligence, everything. Sattvam shuddhi. Shuddhi means purified. And yasmat brahma saukyam tvanantam. Then from that purification, you become eligible or qualified to enjoy spiritual happiness forever. Just that whole concept of forever is like, it boggles the mind. Not that it's forever, right? Because our experience has been everything is changing and we're going to die. Everything is just going. But this is forever because it's spiritual. So you imagine coming to the point of always being blissed out in Brahmasaukhya. What is that Brahmasaukhya? That's Krishna consciousness. That's loving devotion and service to Krishna. Engaged now with our senses and mind, and ultimately eternally on the spiritual platform, because we have a spiritual body, a spiritual mind. So here he's describing. We have to recognize: is this austerity? Why am I engaging in austerity? So now we're on the point of charity, and charity should be given, as Prabhupada says, the best charity is given for spiritual purposes. So what verse did we read? 20, right? Yeah. I don't think I gave the purport. I didn't read the purport here, did I? Purport. In the Vedic literature, charity given to a person engaged in spiritual activities is recommended. There is no recommendation for giving charity indiscriminately. Spiritual perfection is always a consideration. Therefore, charity, I think I did read this. It is. Okay, let's go on to text 21. Yattu pratyupakaratam palam uddishya va punaha diyate chaparikristam taddanam rajasam smritam. But charity performed with the expectation of some return, or with a desire for fruitive results, or in a grudging mood, is said to be charity in the mode of passion. Charity is sometimes performed for elevation to the heavenly kingdom, and sometimes with great trouble and with repentance afterwards. Why have I spent so much in this way? Charity is also sometimes given under some obligation at the request of a superior. These kinds of charity are said to be given in the mode of passion. There are many charitable foundations which offer their gifts to institutions where sense gratification goes on. Such charities are not recommended in the Vedic scripture. Only charity and goodness is recommended. So that such a charity is also entangling, because there's a material motivation involved. That's called fruitive activity. So that again is entangling. If you give charity, even in the mode of goodness, or let's say this is, for some, you give charity to a Brahmin, with the expectation that I'll get it back in the next life. Well, you may get it back 100 times, 1,000 times, but you're still in the material world. You're still bound here, birth and death. You haven't really moved in the direction. You've just gone from a C prisoner to A prisoner. Now you're in the deluxe cell of the prison. Does that do what we want to do? We want to get out of the prison. So no material motivation. And it helps. Even in the Bible it says, do it anonymously. You're going to drop something in there. Do it when no one is watching. You can do it any time, but that's okay. They're going to see you. I'm going to try to look. I'm putting $50. No, Krishna sees. That's what really counts. That's what really counts. All right, now let's go to 22. We'll actually do a newer verse today. Adesha kale yaddanam apatrebhyascha diyate asatkutam avagyatam tattam samudaritam. And charity performed at an impure place at an improper time to unworthy persons or without proper attention and respect is said to be in the mode of ignorance. Purport: contributions for indulgence in intoxication and gambling are not encouraged here. That sort of contribution is in the mode of ignorance. Such charity is not beneficial. Rather, sinful persons are encouraged. Similarly, if a person gives charity to a suitable person but without respect and without attention, that sort of charity is also said to be in the mode of darkness. Now, I'll be honest with you. I carry around some maha cookies with me at all times because there's a constituency of homeless here. There was one lady who was really into it, Leah. This was before Christmas time. Leah was pretty together. She had she was from Dallas, some place in Texas. She had some college education, but she fell on hard times, karma, and she ended up homeless here in SanDiego. But she had books. She read some Hare Krishna books. I gave her some beads. She was chanting. Anyway, she couldn't. Christmas time is very difficult for these people because they don't have family and everything like that. And she took her own life, actually. But before that, I would always carry cookies and give it to him. So I still have. So there's one guy out back here who sleeps whenever I see him. I give him cookies. So I'm not, it's prasadam. So it's like, it's transcendental. Giving out prasadam is always transcendental activity. So we have to know the art of giving charity. The best charity is always for the spread of Krishna consciousness. You give some charity to ISKCON, we'll print books with it, we'll buy Bhagavad, give out prasadam, serve the Lord. It's all auspicious. You get back millions of times the benefit, any little charity. That's why I pick up little pennies, somebody drop them in here. Because that connects to whoever dropped it, they get, that's the beginning. Agyata Sukriti. This Agyata Sukriti is an important principle. Agyata means unknowing. Sukriti means pious activity. In this case, devotional activity. We may have all done some in our past life, and that's why we have receptivity to Krishna conscious philosophy. Krishna is within our heart. Oh, they did some service for me? Okay, we'll give them a little intelligence to understand this philosophy. So anyhow, any way in which we can engage people in Krishna service, even just a good morning, Hare Krishna, good morning. They see me with, with these clothes, and I say, good morning, take a walk. Many people at least give me a good morning, so that's a positive, exchange. Maybe it'll fructify things like that. Anyone who lives in the area, even they're walking their dogs, they practice circumambulating. It's mixed, obviously. They don't know what they're doing, but just to be near this temple. The temple itself has created an aura people don't recognize in this whole area, where there's much less crime nearby here than there are in other parts of SanDiego. Because there's a temple, Hare Krishna. I'm telling you, it has its effect. Oh, I want to go on. 23. Now he goes into a little thing about Om Tat Sat here for the next few verses. Om Tat Sat iti nirdesho Brahmanas Tribadhasmata Brahmanas Tena Vedascha Yagyascha Vihitapura. From the beginning of creation, the three words Om Tat Sat were used to indicate the supreme absolute truth. These three symbolic representations were used by Brahmins while chanting the hymns of the Vedas and during sacrifices for the satisfaction of the Supreme. Purport. It has been explained that penance, sacrifice, charity, and foods are divided into three categories. Penance means austerity. The modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. But whether first class, second class, or third class, they are all conditioned, contaminated by the material modes of nature. So even goodness is not good enough. When they are aimed at the Supreme, Om Tat Sat, the Supreme Personality of God, the Eternal, they become means for spiritual elevation. In the scriptural injunctions, such an objective is indicated. These three words, Om Tat Sat, particularly indicate the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Vedic hymns, the word Om is always found. One who acts without following the regulations of the scriptures will not attain the absolute truth. He will get some temporary result, but not the ultimate end of life. The conclusion is that the performance of charity, sacrifice, and penance must be done in the mode of goodness. Performed in the mode of passion or ignorance, they are certainly inferior in quality. The three words Om Tat Sat are uttered in conjunction with the holy name of the Supreme Lord. For example, Om Tad Vishnu. Whenever a Vedic hymn or the holy name of the Supreme Lord is uttered, Om is added. This is the indication of Vedic literature. These three words are taken from Vedic hymns. Om Ityetad Brahmano Nedishtam Nama indicates the first goal. Then Tattvamasi, Chandogya Upanishad 687, indicates the second goal. And Sadeva Saumya, Chandogya Upanishad 621, indicates the third goal. Combined, they become Om Tat Sat. Formerly, when Brahma, the first created living entity, performed sacrifices, he indicated by these three words the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the same principle has always been followed by disciplic succession. So this hymn has great significance. Bhagavad Gita recommends, therefore, that any work done should be done for Om Tat Sat, or for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one performs penance, charity, and sacrifice with these three words, he is acting in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is a scientific execution of transcendental activities which enables one to return home back to Godhead. There's no loss of energy in acting in such a transcendental way. So you don't hear so much this Om Tat Sat in Hare Krishna. You'll hear it a lot in other yoga groups if they're trying to tie in with the Upanishads and things like that. But it's a very auspicious vibration. Of course, Om, Tat indicates like Tat Vamasi. Tat is like the truth as a Tattva. And Sat is eternity. So these are very auspicious vibrations. And you'll hear a lot of that in the sacrifices when we have some fire sacrifices. There's a lot of this uttering of these words. But we should know that the chanting of Hare Krishna subsumes all of that. Prabhupada once said that Om is, because people were asking, what about Om? You know, it says Om is included within Hare Krishna. You know, you don't lose anything ever by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. We should know, you know, it's so common and people know us as Hare Krishna. It's like something, this saying, you know, this Bengali saying, if you go out with the finest mangoes, you know, and you go door to door, try to give them away, people won't accept it. There must be something wrong if they're giving it out for free, right? So let me go pay $100 and get a secret mantra. That'll be better. No, the best mantra of all is Maha Mantra. And Maha Mantra, it's a part of the Vedas. It's in the Upanishads. The Kali Santarana. Now, Kali Santarana means that Upanishad which enables you to cross over the age of Kali. So it says Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Iti Shodashakam Nam Nam, Kali Kalmasha Nashanam, Natak Padataropaya, Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. That you can search, the Iti Shodashaka Nam Nam, Shodashaka Nam Nam means 16 names, these 16 names you see here. Kali Kalmasha Nashanam. So Kalmasha are the bad influences or sinful reactions that are due to us just living in the age of Kali. So it's Kali Kalmasha, means impurities caused by the age of Kali. It's all around, they're all around us. If you don't do anything, you become totally contaminated. You have to have a program of purification, powerful program. So this verse is Kali Kalmasha Nashanam, destroys all of the impurities caused by the age of Kali. It pushes back on the age of Kali, you know, the influence. Na tat parataropaya sarva vedeshu drishyate. If you look, drishyate, through all the Vedas, you will not find a more efficient means of counteracting these ills of Kali than this chanting of the holy name. It's right there in the Upanishad. So on this basis, Lord Chaitanya popularized this name. Easy to memorize, it has a rhythm, you can dance to it, you know, and you can do it in japa, and it's essential. It's essential practice. That alone awakens our interest and our desire to learn Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. So we're going to leave a little time here for pastimes. We want to have a balanced diet of philosophy and pastime, Lila. And we're almost done with this chapter. We'll finish it tomorrow. So thank you for your attention on that. And now we're going to go to our compendium of literature here. So let's see. There's nothing like Krishna book. Krishna book is, you know, Prabhupada's summary, what do you call the summary study? These are terms that become common when you hang out in this kind of summary study. What is it? Is it a summary? It's not exactly a summary. Summary study means it's a running translation. He had the 10th canto, original Sanskrit, and he was giving a running translation and occasionally stopped for commentary, which he wove in. It's not the formal verse, synonyms, translation, purport that he gives in his other books. So that's the book we're going to read from. It's Krishna Lila, but it has a special Prabhupada flavor to it. That's his favorite. He grew up on this book. So let's see. Let's pick out a nice Everfresh. Subduing Kali is one of my favorites. So what happened in the previous chapter, which is the Dhenukasura chapter, is that Krishna and Balaram, they killed these big donkey demons who were taking over a tala. I learned that talas are dates. The date fruits were defended by these donkey demons. And so Balaram killed the main one, Dhenukasura. Then his associates were also killed by Krishna. And then they went back, their friends are all singing their glories. They're enjoying themselves, playing the flute, dancing. The cows come back into the village, and the gopis look at Krishna and Balaram, especially Krishna, and they're drinking the beauty of their eyes. It's like a lotus face, like the bees, the bee-like eyes. Pitpa mukunda mukasadakam akshi bringai. Bringai means bees, and akshi means eyes. So tapam juhu vadahajam vadayoshi toli. And by drinking this nectar or this honey-like beauty of Krishna's face when he comes back, they're giving up all the pain of separation that they experienced during the day. This is this last chapter. But then there's a section here at the end where the boys are out again, and they drink the water of the Yamuna, and they all die. And Krishna glances at them, brings them back to life. And then it's revealed that the water of the Yamuna had been completely polluted by this multi-headed serpent called Kaliya. So he's not usually called an Asura because he's not killed by Krishna. He's actually blessed by Krishna and becomes purified. But this is a very dramatic pastime in which Krishna draws out the last drop of anxious love from all the residents of Vrindavan. This is what you read the Vrindavan Leela especially, and Krishna is engineering these different varieties of loving exchange with his friends, with his parents, with the gopis, with the cows, and all the residents of Vrindavan. That's all that's going on there. So they were brought back to life. Now here we begin this chapter 16. When Krishna understood that the water of the Yamuna was being polluted by the black serpent Kaliya, Lord Krishna took action against him and made him leave the Yamuna and go elsewhere, and thus the water became purified. So we should relate to this because there's so much pollution now, right? This is EPA, the original EPA. When this story was being narrated by Shukadeva Goswami, Maharaj Parikshit became eager to hear more about Krishna's childhood pastimes. He inquired from Shukadeva Goswami how Krishna chastised Kaliya, who had been living in the water for many years. Actually, Parikshit was becoming more and more enthusiastic to hear the transcendental pastimes of Krishna, and his inquiry was made with great interest. Now remember, he's sitting for 7 days. They're in the 10th canon. This is like 2/3 of the way through the book. So it's like 4 or 5 days, no eating, no sleeping, no drinking, no nothing. He's just consuming this nectar of Krishna Katha, and he's becoming more and more eager to hear. This is the nature of it. It's like an intoxicating drug, a beverage. There's no bad side effects, And once you are purified to be able to drink this, you never get tired. It's ever fresh. Even the same thing you heard 100 times is newer and newer, unlike any other thing you will consume. So, Shukadeva narrated the story as follows. Within the river Yamuna, there was a great lake, and in that lake, the black serpent Kaliya used to live. Because of his poison, the whole area was so contaminated that it emanated a poisonous vapor 24 hours a day. If a bird happened to even pass over the spot, it would nearly die and fall down into the water. Due to the poisonous effect of the Yamuna's vapors, the trees and grass near the bank of the Yamuna had all dried up. Krishna saw the effect of the great serpent's poison. The whole river that ran before Vrindavan was now deadly. Krishna, who advented himself just to kill all undesirable elements in the world, immediately climbed up into a big kadamba tree on the bank of the Yamuna. The kadamba is a tree bearing round yellow flowers that is generally seen only in Vrindavan. After climbing to the top of the tree, he tightened his belt cloth and, slapping his arms just like a wrestler, jumped into the middle of the poisonous lake. The kadamba tree from which Krishna jumped was the only tree which had not died. Some commentators say that due to being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna, the tree immediately came back to life. Other Puranas state that Garuda, the eternal carrier of Vishnu, knew that Krishna would take this action in the future, and so he put some nectar onto this tree to preserve it. When Krishna jumped into the water, the river overflooded its banks to a distance of 100 yards, as if something very large had fallen into it. This exhibition of Krishna's strength is not at all uncommon, because he is the reservoir of all strength. When Krishna was swimming about just like a great strong elephant, he made a tumultuous sound, which the great black serpent Kaliya could hear. The tumult was intolerable for him, and he could understand that this was an attempt to attack his home. Therefore, he immediately came before Krishna. Kaliya saw that Krishna was indeed worth seeing, because his body was so beautiful and delicate. His color resembled that of a cloud, and his feet resembled lotuses. He was decorated with shrivats, jewels, and yellow garments. He was smiling with a beautiful face and playing in the river Yamuna with great strength. But in spite of Krishna's beautiful features, Kaliya felt great anger within his heart, and thus he grabbed Krishna with his mighty coils. Seeing the incredible way in which Krishna was enveloped in the coils of the serpent, the affectionate coward boys and other inhabitants of Vrindavan immediately became stunned out of fear. Remember, they don't know he's God. He's just their beloved friend. So now it looks like he's a goner for sure. They had dedicated everything to Krishna, their lives, their property, their affection, their activities. Everything was for Krishna. And when they saw him in that condition, they became overwhelmed with fear and fell down on the ground. All the cows, the bulls, and small calves became overwhelmed with grief, and they began to look at him with great anxiety. Out of fear, they could only cry in agony and stand erect on the bank, unable to help their beloved Krishna. While this scene was taking place on the bank of the Yamuna, there were ill omens manifest. The earth trembled, meteors fell from the sky, and the left side of men's bodies shivered. If the left side of women's bodies shivered, that's auspicious. Left side of men's bodies shivered, that's inauspicious. Though it has to be one, but that's debating. All these are indications of great imminent danger. Observing the inauspicious signs, the coward men, beginning with Nanda, became very anxious out of fear. At the same time, they were informed that Krishna had gone to the pasturing ground without his elder brother Balaram. Balaram took the position of protecting his brother, very powerful. But now he's not with him. As soon as Nanda and Yashoda and the coward men heard this news, they became even more anxious. Out of their great affection for Krishna and being unaware of the extent of his potencies, they became overwhelmed with grief and anxiety because they had nothing dearer than Krishna and because they had dedicated their everything, life, property, affection, mind, and activities, to Krishna. Because of their great attachment for Krishna, they thought, today Krishna is surely going to be vanquished. All the inhabitants of Braj came out of the village to see Krishna. The assembly consisted of children, old men, women, animals, and all living entities. They knew that Krishna was their only means of sustenance. While this was happening, Balaram, who is the master of all knowledge, stood there simply smiling. He knew how powerful his younger brother was, and that there was no cause for anxiety when Krishna was fighting with an ordinary serpent of the material world. He did not, therefore, personally take any part in their sorrow. On the other hand, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, being disturbed, began to search out Krishna by following the impression of his footprints on the ground, and thus they moved hastily toward the bank of the Yamuna. Finally, by following the footprints marked with flag, bow, and conch shell, there's many auspicious marks of this. Saul, these are three of them. By following those marks, the inhabitants of Vrindavan arrived at the riverbank and saw that all the cows and boys were weeping to behold Krishna and wrapped in the coils of the black serpent. Then they became still more overwhelmed with grief. While Balaram was smiling to see their lamentation, all the inhabitants of Brajabhumi merged into the ocean of grief because they thought that Krishna was finished. Although the residents of Vrindavan did not know much about Krishna, their love for him was beyond comparison. As soon as they saw that Krishna was in the river Yamuna, enveloped by the serpent Kaliya, and that all the boys and cows were lamenting, they simply began to think of Krishna's friendship, his smiling face, his sweet words, and his dealings with them. Thinking of all these and seeing that their Krishna was now within the clutches of Kaliya, they at once felt that the three worlds had become vacant. Lord Chaitanya also said that he was seeing the three worlds as vacant for one of Krishna. This is the highest stage of Krishna consciousness. Almost all of the inhabitants of Vrindavan had the highest ecstatic love for Krishna. When Mother Yashoda arrived, she wanted to enter the river Yamuna, and being checked, she fainted. Her friends, who were equally aggrieved, were shedding tears like torrents of rain or waves of the river. But in order to bring Mother Yashoda to consciousness, they began to speak loudly about the transcendental pastimes of Krishna. Mother Yashoda remained still, as if dead, because her consciousness was concentrated on the face of Krishna. Nanda and all the other coward men who had dedicated everything, including their lives, to Krishna, were ready to enter the waters of the Yamuna. But Lord Balaram checked them because he was in perfect knowledge that there was no danger. For 2 hours, Krishna remained like an ordinary child, gripped in the coils of Kaliya. But when he saw that all the inhabitants of Gokula, including his mother and father, the gopis, the boys, and the cows, were just on the point of death, and that they had no shelter for salvation from imminent death, Krishna immediately freed himself. He began to expand his body, and when the serpent tried to hold him, he felt a great strain. On account of the strain, his coils slackened, and he had no alternative but to let loose the personality of Godhead, Krishna, from his grasp. Kaliya then became very angry, and his great hoods expanded. He exhaled poisonous fumes from his nostrils. His eyes blazed like fire, and flames issued from his mouth. He was more like a dragon than anything. Flames. The great serpent remained still for some time, looking at Krishna, licking his lips with bifurcated tongues. The serpent looked at Krishna with double hoods, with his eyesight, and his eyesight was full of poison. Krishna immediately pounced upon him, just as Garuda swoops upon a snake. Thus attacked, Kaliya looked for an opportunity to bite him, but Krishna moved around him. As Krishna and Kaliya moved in a circle, the serpent gradually became fatigued, and his strength seemed to diminish considerably. Krishna immediately pressed down the serpent's hoods and jumped up on them. The Lord's lotus feet became tinged with red from the rays of the jewels on the snake's hoods. Then he, who is the original artist of all fine arts, such as dancing, began to dance upon the hoods of the serpent, although they were moving to and fro. Upon seeing this, the denizens of the upper planets showered flowers, beat drums, played different types of flutes, and sang various prayers and songs. In this way, all the denizens of heaven, such as the Gandharvas, the Siddhas, and the demigods, became very much pleased. While Krishna was dancing on his hoods, Kali had tried to push him down with some of his other hoods. Kali had about 100 hoods, but Krishna took control of them. He began to dash Kali with his lotus feet, and this was more than the serpent could bear. Gradually, Kali was reduced to struggling for his very life. He vomited all kinds of refuse and exhaled fire. While throwing up poisonous material from within, Kali became reduced in his sinful situation. So it was a big cleanse for Kali. Out of great anger, he began to struggle for existence and tried to raise one of his hoods to kill the Lord. The Lord immediately captured that hood and subdued it by kicking it and dancing upon it. It actually appeared as if the Lord Vishnu was being worshipped. The poisons emanating from the mouth of the serpent appeared like flower offerings. Kali then began to vomit blood instead of poison. He was completely fatigued. His whole body appeared to be broken by the kicks of the Lord. Within his mind, however, he finally began to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he surrendered unto him. He realized that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, the Master of everything. And we'll stop there. Tomorrow we'll read the prayers of the wives of the Kaliya, called the Naga Patnis. Very auspicious. Thank you for your attention. Yes, we have. Yeah. Not there? Yeah. We have the Leela. That's it. You can see the Leela. Salakaliya's hoods. Hare Krishna. That was exciting. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Padaya. Yellow one. Oh, the other. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prestaya, Bhutale, Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Iti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prestaya, Bhutale, Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurambani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyamari Asachari Shatarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurambani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyamari Asachari Shatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare, Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, 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 Hare Hare, Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Go Premanande Hare Roshi Hare Giri Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Buddhikacharya Ashtotar Tadashri Shima Narasimhaya Namaste Valadhaladandayane Hiranyakashipo Lakshara Shilatankanakalaye Tonishinga Paratonishingo Yato Yato Yamitato Nishinga Baye Nishingo Ridnaye Nishingo Nrsimhamading Sharanam Prapaje Tapakara Kamalavare Nakam Adutta Shinga Charita Hiranyakashipu Tanum Vringa Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Karakamalavare Nakam Adutta Shinga Keshavandrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Keshavandrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Keshavandrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Keshavandrita Narahari Rupa Jai Nrsimhadev 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 Jai Nrsimhadev Jai Nrsimhadev 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 Jai Nrsimhadev Sringa Bhagavan ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.